Mike Locksley said what during Big Ten Media Day?
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Mike Locksley made some comments during Big Ten Media Day that honestly I did not like at all. It's that time of year. We're at Big Ten Media time where we start hearing from all the coaches, and there's a lot of chit chat, and there are a lot of people getting ready for next season. Like, we're almost in August. Games are played in August, so we're really not that far away from watching a college football season. And we're going to get fall camp, and hopefully we're going to get some more headlines. And what comes with that is Big Ten Media Day. And the thing to me, in my opinion, about Big Ten Media Day, it's kind of like one of those lose-lose situations. You say what you're supposed to say, and hopefully you get out of there without making any real comments or making any real headlines, and nobody's really talking about you coming out of Big Ten Media Day, or you make a fool out of yourself. But there's not really much good that can happen from Big Ten Media Day. Like, there's nothing really Mike Locksley could have said to us at Big Ten Media Day where we would like, wow, Mike Locksley sounds so well thought out. Like, that's an awesome statement. Like, there's like very few, like, that's pretty rare for you to come after a media day. Like, most of them are media trained, so they're not going to say anything too crazy. You're not going to get too much. But Mike Locksley gave us a little something that was really surprising that he said. And there's definitely been some bad things said at Big Ten media. There's been coaches that say too much. I remember last year, I want to say the UCLA coach, he got up there, didn't know what he was saying. Like, you got to be prepared. I don't know if you guys remember that. It blew up pretty hard on the Instagram, but there's just a lot of bad and a lot of headlines that can happen. And this just happened for Maryland football. So I don't know how big of a national headline it's going to get. A lot of people don't really talk about Maryland football, let's be fair, but we care. And in terms of Maryland football headlines, this is kind of a big one. So to me, I really didn't like his comments, but he went up there, and we'll get into the rest of it. I want to focus on this. And he mentioned that he lost the locker room last year. Fully admitted that he didn't have the locker room last year. Fully admitted it, said it. You can go back and watch it, go back and look. Mike Locksley said, didn't have the locker room last year. I lost the locker room. To me, that's not something you say. Not something you say. I think the image of the Maryland program doesn't need that. We are not a team that's going to get 4 or 5 stars. We're no Ohio State. We're no Michigan. We're not that type of team. Like, what we have to win at is being in an environment that everyone cares, that everyone's going to work hard, that there's nothing given, and that especially the coaching staff has to have control over the players. You get to some programs in today's, and you got the quarterbacks making more than a lot of the assistant coaches, or guys are making more NIL money than a lot of players or a lot of people on the coaching staff, and you can see how or players can get a little bit, just like a little bit entitled and everything. But as a program, for us, that can't happen. Mike Locksley cannot lead a program where he loses the locker room. That cannot happen at all. And so there's levels to this. First, I want to start off with what I was saying. I don't know why he admitted that. Don't know why he admitted it. That's something I feel like you kind of keep it in-house because nobody really, I mean, I guess we had assumptions off of last year where Locksley doesn't seem to be coaching right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it has the last couple of years. It felt like last year's team was pretty talented. When you go back, look on paper, most guys drafted in the NFL, like, there's talent on that team. Like, Billy Edwards, decent quarterback, but talented. Our receiving room, Ty Felton Prather, talented. A running back room, Roman Hemby, Nolan Wright, talented. Defensive back some of those guys. Dante Trader, talented. Defensive line, 2 guys drafted, Jordan Phillips, Tommy King Basote, talented, but it didn't end up working out. And to me, Locksley, so we made assumptions. We were like, okay, our team's talented. Like I mentioned, all those different players. It's not like all world or anything or a top 20 team in the country, but it's talented and it's not working out. And it worked out the last couple of years. And so we made assumptions. I came on here and said, I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know. It starts at the top at Mike Locksley for me, but I just don't know why you would admit that. I don't know the benefit of admitting it. Maybe he felt like he needed to get it off his chest. Maybe it's kind of an excuse for him for last year. I don't know. But to me, it was something that didn't need to be said. Didn't need to be said. I don't think we needed to hear that. I mean, obviously, it's good for me. It gives me something to talk about, something new, something original, something that doesn't happen every single day to talk about. But it's just something to me that you should have left out. It's something that you just don't really mention. It's something you keep on the low if you think that, and you keep it in house with your team and you say, okay, last year, guys, I lost the locker room. Guys didn't believe me. Whatever the case is, that's not going to happen this year. I'm going to put my foot down. I'm going to have you guys. You guys are all going to have trust in me in those different things. I don't see the benefits. I don't know if he was kind of wanting us to make an excuse for him. Like, he doesn't strike me as that type of guy. And he's just being completely honest with us, which is kind of beneficial for us. It's good to know. But it's just like, to me, when there's outside like recruits looking at the program, like they read that type of stuff. And you don't want a coach that ever loses the locker room. A coach could be, that's a mark of a good coach. If your team is bad, if the coach still, if players still believe in him and everything like that, that's a mark of a good coach that can do stuff motivationally. Like football, a lot of it's the X and O's, but a lot of it's the motivation. You think Nick Saban at Alabama ever lost the locker room? No. You think Coach Kirby at Georgia, you think he ever has lost the locker room for like a season? No, it doesn't happen. Maybe you lose it for a time or moments, like things happen, but you got to get it back. And that's something it's a culture shock to me, where I always kind of thought our culture was really changing in a beneficial way for Maryland football. Where now I'm looking at it and I'm like, are we going the right direction? Are we doing the right things? Are we on the right track? Are things happening like we need them to happen? I just don't know. And so it brings up a lot of question marks to me about Mike Locksley. And I think I view him differently because I never thought of him as a coach that would lose the locker room. So to me, it was a little bit shocking and a little bit interesting. So I don't really know. And this is kind of what he said on the 2025 team and learning from 2024. He said, when you think about our team, here's what I'll tell you. This, for me, kind of year is what I like to call vulnerability. One of the greatest characteristics you can have as a leader is ability to be vulnerable. And I tell you, a year ago, Coach Locks lost his locker room. And for me to stand in front of a group in media and tell you that I lost my locker room, and it wasn't because I wasn't a good coach, it wasn't because they weren't good players, it's because we were better than a 4-win team. Makes total sense. So I get that. And so you can kind of push back to a little bit of what I was saying, but still, it's just such a headline that he knows people are going to misconstrue that and people are going to say it in different ways. And I do guess that's fair. But to me, like I mentioned before, mark of a good coach is no matter how many games you're winning, no matter how many games you're losing, you still have more. You still have the locker room. And we were better than a 4-win team last year, but that doesn't mean that you can say that. And he continues this quote by saying, but what we have to do is we had haves and haves not for the first time in our locker room. In the landscape of college football has taught me a valuable lesson, and that valuable lesson is important for me, even in the midst of this change, to continue to educate our players on the importance of what playing for something bigger than yourself is all about. And so he continues to kind of talk about how now they have this thing now. They have these signs outside of the Maryland locker room that says, leave your Louis, your belts, your car keys, and your financial statements outside. So clearly a lot of this is about the NIL money and the NIL market. That's extremely important. And Mike Locksley said, leave that stuff outside. I don't want this year anyone to be thinking about the NIL. I don't want anyone thinking about, oh, this guy has that. Oh, this guy has, oh, this type of car. Oh, this guy's making $500,000. He wants to say, and I have no problem with this part of his section and them having a sign like that, because I think that's important in today's college football culture. I think it's so important that you have equal people fighting, because people get stagnant. Money makes people stagnant. If I was a college, or I am a college athlete, but if I was a Division I football player making $1 million, let's say, I'd I might get a little stagnant. I might start looking at the money and say, oh, this looks nice. Like, I don't have to do as much. It's important that everyone feels the competition, whether you're making $0 through the money or you're making 3 million. I don't think anyone on Maryland's roster is making 3 million, but you know what I mean? Like, there's guys on that team where he says the haves and have nots is the first kind of time they've had that. There's guys on that team that are making like real money. Like a kid like Malik Washington, you think that guy doesn't have a good NIL deal with Maryland and they're paying him a good amount? They are. And you think that they're paying the same thing as our fifth? You think he's getting the same as fifth string quarterback? Like, no. There are people that have, and there are people that don't have, and that's just what college football is today. But he wants everyone to leave that stuff outside. Obviously, everyone knows that stuff exists, but you got to leave that stuff outside and kind of let everyone kind of still do their thing. So it's interesting how Loxley talked about it. I do kind of believe in that, but I'm still surprised he said, I lost the locker room last year. Still surprised about it, because even though he says it's not because he's wasn't a good coach or whatever the case is, it was just because they were better than a 4-win team. That has to fall on somebody. You're not just worse than what you're supposed to be just because. Unless you want to say Maryland was terrible last year on paper and they should have never been anywhere. Like, you don't just do that, because I'm sure there were decisions that he was making that the players didn't like. There was decisions he was making that I didn't like. So it's kind of an interesting topic, but I am really surprised, and I wish he didn't say that. I just feel like it's such a headline. People really are gonna read that quote and be like, "Ugh, like, I don't really love it." That's kind of how I thought about it. So I think it's not really gonna be a distraction. Nobody will talk about it in a week or two, but I do think it's something that's interesting that he said that he lost the locker room, and he kind of gives us more into why we struggled last year. I want to switch gears and talk about some position battles heading in to camp. I'll talk about that next and what position battles we will see for the Terps as we get closer to the season. We'll talk about that next. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's a game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's an easy way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop closer to as you get the first pitch, and they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that makes worrying about worrying takes the worry out of the buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. There's so many different things you can look at Gametime. I've done a lot of different ticket purchases with Gametime. It's great for baseball, NBA, whatever you guys want to do. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I want to talk about some of the position battles heading into camp for Maryland football. Some of the position battles that I see that are going to pop up that are really big ones. So we'll start with the big one, Locksley, and we're going to kind of include this into the Big Ten media talk. It's a quarterback battle. Malik Washington, Justin Martin, Christian Martin, whoever else did, those are the three main guys, or those are obviously three guys in competition. I think it's between Justin and Malik. It's just sounding like Malik's going to be the starter. It is. And I don't know exactly what Locksley's going to do with it. He doesn't seem like um he's ready to name one, and we knew that was going to have. But I do think that it's obviously the biggest position battle. I just think Malik Washington provides a different excitement and a different type of talent to this team that we haven't ever really had under Locksley. He said, we've had some quarterbacks that have had come through here, and I've had the fortune of having to for 4 years and 4 seasons here as a Big Ten all-time leading passer. He was talking about Talia there, but when you look at the quarterback locker room or the quarterback room today as it stands, it's really, really exciting. It's really cool because I don't necessarily know what I have. I equate the quarterback room a lot to, and I was just telling Tony in the back, a lot to when you have a baby in the crib and you throw the snake in the crib with the baby, and the baby doesn't know what snake is bad. So it's interesting, kind of his comments. So he's not going to say much, but he's basically saying the room's inexperienced. And I think we all know that the room's inexperienced. But I think going into camp, to me, that's the biggest. I mean, it's to everyone, the biggest position battle. I think the running back is interesting. I think Nolan Ray is going to headline that. But like for other carries, like Iverson Howard, Williams, Josiah McLaurin, Bud Combs, like there's a lot of different players that could potentially get carries, and I don't know who's that second guy going to be. I think that's something. I think tight end for the second tight end spot, which is important. We ran a lot of 12 personnel last year between Leon Houghton Jr., JT Target, the freshman, AJ, another kid that has played a little bit. Like I think that's going to be interesting. Receiver position, I think after Jaleel Farouk and Octavian Smith, I just don't know. Mekhi White's talented, Caleb Webb's talented, Shalik Knott's talented, Brian Manning's good. A lot of talented players. Jordan Scott's interesting. Zymir Smith, I don't know what they do with him. I think the receiver position, I think you feel good about Octavian, you feel good about Jaleel, but outside of that, I really don't know. I think the offensive line just in general is just, you could, like, I don't know. I feel good about Ratrell Perry starting at tackle. Alan Heron starting at a tackle. But other than that, I think it's a battle in the inside of that. And then defensively, the defensive line is a huge battle. We brought in so many different defensive linemen from the portal, whether it was Cedric Smith or Ian Thomas or Joel Starlings or Cam Rice, or returning like Dylan Fontes, or some of the guys on the outside like Neo Avery, Daniel Owens, D.D. Holmes, who's a transfer. It's just a huge competition for who's going to get. I think we rotate different guys. There's also freshmen that people are excited about, like Zahir Mathis. People are really excited about him, and Sidney Stewart has looked really good. So we'll see. I also think the corner room is, I think, competition. I think a lot of people like Dante Joyner, but I don't know what is going to happen exactly with that other corner spot. I think Dante Joyner just got rated top 5 on PFF and returning production in the Big Ten, but he didn't play last year. And the Big Ten, I think, was more just returners coming back, like highest rated guys. So he's expected to be one. Jamar Glasgow is expected to be the other. But I just think Braden Lee and Kevin Humes might be too good to not play. So we'll see how those guys have transitioned from their freshman year. But those are the main position groups that I'm going to be looking at that will have some competition. Let's talk a little bit more about Big Ten Media Day and more of Mike Locksley's comments. We'll talk about what they mean and why they're important next. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. In addition to managing money, you're also building wealth. You can do so much different tracking that's so important on Monarch Money, whether you're ordering food like me a lot, or if you're if you're signing up for a lot of subscriptions like Netflix, whatever the case is, and you want to cancel them. A lot, you can see that on Monarch Money. There's so many different things that you can do in Monarch Money. So take control of your finance with Monarch Money. Use code Locked On College at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and code Locked On College for half off your first year. I want to talk a little bit more about Big Ten Media Day, specifically what he said about some of our players that are supposed to talk at Big Ten Media Day. So we have Jalen Husky, we have Isaiah Wright there, we have Daniel Wingate. So I want to start with Jalen Husky. I think Jalen Husky represents us really well. Safety, I think he's going to be really interesting next year. I think people are thinking he's kind of our next thing. He's kind of our next type of big-time player. So he's expected to start for us and be a really solid guy for us. So I think I'm going to be watching Jalen Husky at Big Ten Media Day, what he's supposed to say. He said, this is what Locksley said. First kid, Jalen Husky is a kid that transferred in our program years ago, and we asked him to switch positions mid-season. He went from starting at corner to moving to free safety position due to injuries, and he worked really hard and eventually became one of our most productive players in our program and has now taken on a leadership role. So that's really interesting from Jalen Husky. Sounds like he's our leader. He was really productive at safety, and he's going to be a really good player back there this year. He's like an all Big Ten type of guy. We need him to be elite back there. So we'll see how he ends up playing for us next year. But I think the move for him to safety, but it was really good. But I'm really excited to see what he says at Big Ten Media Day later today. I'll talk about that tomorrow. But Jalen Husky going to be a star on our defense. It made sense for him to travel. And then so Isaiah Wright is a really interesting player that got hurt last year, but definitely is someone that I'm going to be looking out for. And yeah, so he wasn't available at all last season, Isaiah Wright, but I think we're all excited about how he can elevate our offense line. I think he can be really good. And I've kind of been interesting to see what Mike Locksley was going to say about Isaiah Wright, but he said another transfer that we expected a year ago to help us, but tore his Achilles during summer trading and was unable to help us. But when you look at the impact that Isaiah has had in our program, even though he withstood an injury during the season, you'll understand that leadership doesn't have a time stamp on it. Leadership can happen in a day. It can happen, and it can often define how good of a team you're going to be and impact other players. And even though he dealt with the blow of not being able to play a year ago, when I looked at the impact that Isaiah Wright had on our program, even as an injured first-year transfer player, I knew that he was the right guy for our program. So it sounds like Isaiah Wright has been a really top-end leader for the Terps and a really good leader, which is important. We need guys that can lead, man. I think that's where Maryland lacks sometimes. Some of the leadership with changing captains every week and those different things. You need set guys that can lead. And it sounds like Jalen Husky and Isaiah Wright have been major leaders for the Terps, which is extremely important. And I felt bad for Isaiah Wright. Missed all of last year, which was definitely tough for him. I don't know where he slides in this year. People are thinking maybe a starting guard. I don't know exactly, but I hope he can be good, really good on the offensive line. But the fact that he's continued to lead speaks volumes on his character and who he is as a person. So I do think that is really important as well for the Terps. And then he talked about Daniel Wingate, who I never talk about enough. I never give him enough credit. He's arguably I think one of our best linebackers. I think he's going to be really good next year. But Locksley said a player that I'm really, really excited about. Daniel was a guy that probably wasn't as heavily recruited as his skill set has shown to be. He was a guy last year as a true sophomore that I saw take on a huge leadership role, not just on the football field, but in the locker room, has been a very productive player. A DMV kid that made the decision to stay home and has been a key for us in trying to build a program and put it back on track. So really high on Daniel Wingate, brought up that leadership again. But I think Daniel Wingate can be really good for us as well. So we'll see how that ends up working out. But I love those three guys that he chose. I think it made sense for him not to bring one of the quarterbacks. I think you got to bring guys, proven leaders, and it doesn't matter a ton, but I think it's interesting to hear what he has to say about them. He speaks very highly on each of them, and they're all really three in interesting spots, so I wanted to talk about that. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're every day talking Maryland football and basketball, so thank you guys for listening to Locked On Terps.